Come on, Colton, we're ready to do the show.
But I was gonna go to Toshi Station to get some power converters.
Pick up some more milk while you're out.
Okay.
Chewie.
A little.
We're going to take a look at the new Star Wars cartoon from Disney today. It's called Star Wars Resistance. It is created by Dave Filoni, who did Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, so it has that going for it. And we watched the first episode the other day. Do you want to give me some feedback on it?
I did not really understand it. The only part I really understood is how Poe and Kaz met, but I don't really know Kaz that much. The only thing I thought was funny in it was, I think it was the girl that kept on saying so literal things.
Niku, and I'm not sure, it's an alien creature, and I'm not sure, I actually don't know if it's a girl or a boy. I think I'm not sure, but I know who you're talking about. Niku is the character's name. And that was fun. You found that funny. Okay, that's interesting.
Because when Kaz said that I've always wanted to be the best flyer ever, then Niku took that and shared it.
Right, shared it literally and actually created a problem for Kaz. Okay, let's talk about it in terms of some of the characters really quick. So Poe Dameron is in this. Now Poe Dameron, this series takes place after Return of the Jedi, but before The Force Awakens. So this would actually be our first, our introduction to Poe Dameron. Do you like that character? Did you like Poe in the movies? Let's start with that.
I thought he was okay.
All right. What about in the series? What did you think about him in the series so far? You've only seen an episode of it, but what did you think?
I don't think it even changed.
All
I
right.
think I might like him even a little less.
All right. And the way this series sets up is Poe meets Kaz. There's a battle in space, and that's how Poe meets Kaz. And Kaz is the main character. And he basically enlists him to work for the Resistance, and he puts him on a planet, and he's supposed to be a spy for the Resistance. Poe, I have problems with. In The Force Awakens, when he was introduced, he had potential, I thought, to be a decent character, similar to Han in some ways. But I think the problem I have with him, and this is me, so it's my problem, but I find him to be too cocky and too good at everything he does. Now, Han Solo was kind of a cocky character and a brash character, and he thought, he would brag about himself and everything else. But what always made that work was the fact that he would do something clumsy or something would go wrong, and so he wasn't perfect, and that's what made it work. That's what made Harrison Ford's characterization in Han Solo work, is because of that. He would say to Luke, I got this, no problem, and he'd go to grab the stormtrooper and he'd step on a branch or a twig and make a noise and screw up the whole thing. Poe never has that. He brags all the time and everything goes perfectly and he never does anything wrong, and so that makes him just look arrogant, which is not a likable quality necessarily. So he brags about himself and then everything goes well, so it's hard. Do you like him? You said you liked him less. I don't like him for that reason. Let's take Kaz for a minute now. Kaz is the main character, and this is the character I think that is written for the younger generation to identify with. So, do you like Kaz? Do you like that character?
No, because I think he's really confusing, and I just don't get his personality.
You don't?
I don't like it.
All right. And I guess I would back that up because he doesn't commit one way or the other. He seems to be, he says something and then it gets him into a problem and I don't know. It's hard to understand the character or get behind the character because we really don't know what he's all about. Again, this is the first episode, but when we're first introduced to characters in a lot of stories, we need to identify with them quickly in what their goals and their cause and everything else is. He does have some problems with his dad, right? He calls his dad, and his dad has a plan for him, and so he doesn't get along with his dad. So we get that piece. We get that piece of him a little bit, and we know that he's out there and he wants to be the best fighter pilot. The way they're portraying him or they've written him, he seems aimless at this point. He doesn't really, and maybe that's their purpose. I don't know. Now, you mentioned Niku, who is the character who's very literal. So this is a character that no matter what you say, the character takes it very literally, which is intended to lead to humorous situations. You like that character? Mm-hmm. Okay, you did like that character. All right, and I'm sure that's in there for your generation, again, to enjoy. And this show isn't necessarily for my generation. I think that adults might find that character a little annoying after a while, but it's a very well-meaning character. He's a nice character. He does, he always intends to do things in a positive way. So there is that. Jaeger was the other big character that was introduced in the beginning here, and he's sort of in charge on this planet. It's his shop where he has the ships and everything, and he hires the mechanics. And Poe works out a deal with him where he will allow Kaz to stay there and be a mechanic and be a spy for the Resistance. Do you remember his character? He's kind of the boss.
Mm-hmm. Because he was the boss, I don't really think that I liked him that much because he was very, I don't know, I guess he was like really mean in a way.
He did come across that way. He comes across very harsh with Kaz. And he's not even very agreeable with Poe. I thought the character was okay, though. I think he's going to turn out to be something more than what we've seen. And again, first episode. Now, animation-wise, where do you fall on this? Because you have very definite opinions about animation and the way things look. And I know you didn't like the look of Clone Wars or Rebels, and this is definitely a different animation style. This is not that. This is more of an old-school style of animation. It looks like more cartoon. It has the shadowing that these other series have, but it's definitely an older style of animation.
I think I liked it a little bit more than Rebels.
Okay.
I didn't really like it more than Clone Wars, so I give it like an okay, but for me,
all right,
can't really say.
And this is a spot where I think the series actually shines. I'm not so invested in the animation of the characters themselves. I think they need to work on that a little bit. However, the animation of the ships and the robots like BB-8 I thought that was exceptional. I really liked it a lot. There's even a shot where part of this episode involves a race. Kaz winds up in a race where this planet is. That's part of the purpose of why they're on the planet is they do these races. And he's there. And in the race, it's almost as if they mounted the camera on the fuselage of the plane that he's flying or the fighter that he's flying, and it gives the image looking back along the fuselage at the jet trails behind him, and it's very similar to like in Top Gun when you would see down the side of the F-14 Tomcat. It's that image, and I thought it looked great, and the ships look more along the lines of an anime style, say from like Battle of the Planets or Star Blazers from that era. The ships definitely have that look. The characters, not as much. They shade the characters in a strange way, and they don't necessarily add detail lines to their faces and what have you. So I think that's what's lacking on the people and the aliens versus the machines and the droids. They have those kind of features. Overall, did you enjoy this? Do you think it's a step in the right direction? If you did enjoy it, what did you like? What didn't you like?
I didn't really enjoy it because I think it's confusing, and I don't like the animation. The characters, most of the characters I don't really understand or anything, so.
You liked Niku. Were there any other characters that you liked? There was BB-8 was in here. There was another droid. The bucket, I think his name is. He's kind of falling apart, and he looks like he's got a bucket on his head. Kind of. It looks like BB-8's head on like a frame of something else.
I liked BB-8. I don't really think anything else.
Yeah, again, I have to agree with you there. The characters are not fleshed out at this point, not enough. BB-8 is BB-8, and he works well. I liked him. You like Niku far more than I did. I don't care for the other characters. And the plot, I agree, was very confusing. It's simplistic in a setup for a Star Wars series. It's very simplistic what they're going for, and yet they somehow found a way to make it extremely confusing. And there's a lot of weight placed on this race. And the race pretty much winds up being the equivalent of the pod race in Phantom Menace, which again had a lot of weight, and it was a very thin premise for why the pod race was important. You know, it was almost like it was a manufactured reason to have it in there. So I think part of the issue is Kaz, this is supposed to be about how the resistance builds and gets formed and rises against the First Order. And Kaz, it's a lot of teen angst right now. And again, maybe that's to identify, for kids to identify with, but it's just so casual, and he's not serious, and it just doesn't feel like it has weight or importance at this point. And I think that at least you guys, you and Colton, as far as I'm concerned, are always into that stronger piece of the story, which is the more serious part. You guys understand it and you're into it. So I hope they're not intending to kind of dumb down the storytelling, because I don't think that's necessary. I think that actually would be a mistake. And that's kind of the problem with some of the other pieces that they've put out there. Clone Wars was not like that. Clone Wars was serious. We had some Jar Jar Binks stories that were a little silly. But if this is about the forming of the Resistance and how it rises against the First Order, I don't understand why they're choosing to go about it in this way with characters that are you know, so, it really is like a Saved by the Bell, or you know, that type of feel to it, or Dawson's Creek. I don't know. It doesn't have any weight or importance to it. So I understand what you're saying. At this point, it's very early on, so it's hard to say, you know, it's not going to be a good series. I think because Dave Filoni is involved and he's a good writer, that it will get better. But it did not impress me as a first episode, other than I think the animation, especially of the ships, is phenomenal. I like the look of it. Yummy or crummy for you?
I think for now I'm going to give it a crummy.
Crummy. Yeah, and for me, it's going to be a crummy too. I don't think this was a step in the right direction for Disney at this point. This is the first thing I'd question with Dave Filoni. Again, it's the first episode. It will I did watch the second episode, which you didn't, and the second episode didn't get much better for me. So I'm a little confused. I think they're writing themselves into a corner somewhat with this. I think they need to go out and explore other things and get away from some of the characters that we already know, perhaps. But I don't know. It's
like the Rapunzel. They're trapped inside the tower, and they kind of can't figure out a way to get out, basically.
Right. Well, I'd let my hair down, but I'm at a loss.